All right, we're doing something unique today. It's kind of weird, it's kind of new, and it's sort of a series, maybe. I don't know. If it does, okay, sure. I think that you guys will enjoy it, though. Basically, I'm going to be going through what I call quote unquote bad code and reviewing it and explaining it in a way that other people can understand. Because I think that generally speaking, it can be kind of funny if you know the context, but you can't really get the context if you're not a coder and if you don't have access to this kind of code and everything like that. But for the record, this is what I like to do in some of my spare time when I'm not coding or when I'm not playing games or something. I like going through like BYOND rips and that kind of thing and reading the code because nothing really makes me feel better as a coder than seeing someone else's bad code. However, as a forewarning to this whole series, I'm not trying to shame an individual person because I don't think that that's why some of this bad code exists. I think that the reason this bad code exists is someone initially had an okay idea that was kind of weighed down by their inexperience, and someone else got the code and said, okay, well, this is integrated fully. I can't really get rid of it. We'll just add on to it. And people kept doing that, and then you have a whole game built upon these weird, interestingly strange ideas. And again, that means it's sort of 8 or 9 people's collective fault, not one dude's fault. So it's more of an organization thing than an individual thing, if that makes sense. But anyway, without further ado, these are going to be kind of short. I don't really want to take too long going through these. I think it's funnier generally if they're relatively short. So this is a warper system. Now, in most games, what happens is you go into the map and you put down a warper and you say, this is map 1, or sorry, warper 1, and it warps to warper 2. And then you put down another warper and say, this is warper 2, and it warps back to warper 1. And then you're done. That's how it works. It's a little inefficient. It takes a lot of time, but it's very specific, and you don't need more warpers than you actually need, I guess, or you don't make more warpers than you need. This system is not that system. This system, if we can get down here, you're going to notice is extraordinarily weird and also kind of blank and also super fucking long. It's extremely long. Like literally thousands of lines, I think. Yeah, 2,000 lines. Here we are. At the bottom, I think it's 3, yeah. So this is a section. I trimmed this down, and also this is only one file of several with warper code in it. But TLDR with this, each Naruto map, for this game specifically, has warpers along the edges and along a bunch of other things like houses. Instead of saying this is warper 1 and this is warper 2 and they warp to each other, instead, they individually define every single warper in the entire game before it's ever used. And then the mappers go through and say, okay, D1 goes to D2 and D2 goes to D1, which is what this is, which is fine and dandy and the same exact thing, except it's predefined, which means if a warper is removed, like let's say that we're not using D1 and D2 anymore, well, then it's C to E, so that's already kind of screwed up. And also, you have to remove that from the map, and at the same length, this warper is just never used again until you need it. And if you have, say, A, B, C, D going down the side of a map where you can transition to another map, you get misalignments there, right? However, the chief issue with this, I suppose I could say, is the extreme amount of time it takes to implement these. Because, again, like I said, you're not using all of these, right? Like here you go. It's I guess these go to each other. Okay, never mind. That's a different issue entirely. Anyway, these are 2 pairs, whatever. So the main issue with this, the core problem, is you have to type out thousands upon thousands of lines. And sure, you can find and replace them to save some time, but you still have to hand place thousands of warpers. And some of them you don't even need. So you're going through thousands of lines of warpers for no particular reason and having to put each one of them in different places on the map, meaning you are spending possibly hours or even days of your time working on this. And a core tenet of coding is to automate things, and there's such a thing as too much automation, but there's also such a thing as too little, and I think that this is a very good example of too little animation, or automation, sorry, not animation. It's also a very good example of something that's kind of a short-sighted idea being taken too far, and that's the core thing I want to drive home. Currently, in Verdict, just so you know, each map on the sides has a invisible bar, I guess you could say. It's not really a real bar. It's kind of like a mathematical bar, I guess you could say. But it detects if you're close to the edge, and if it is, it teleports you over. That means that every single map can have any kind of dimensions, and it always works, and it'll always teleport you to whatever map it's adjacent to. That means that I do not have to spend hours and hours and days and weeks of my time reorganizing warpers and putting down warpers and I guess defining warpers and fixing warper type definitions and blah blah blah. So anyway, quick video, not really anything super special, but I wanted to go over that because I think it's really funny, and I think even if you aren't a coder, you'll at least appreciate the amount of time that was wasted in this little system thing. So anyway, without further ado, that's all. So hope you have a good day. Bye.